morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, depending on when you are watching. This is Unders, and today I plan on just throwing you out a little tip on widening up your bass. Now, this can be applied into drum and bass, which is how we're going to be looking at it today. Equally, it's going to work just as well in your more EDM genres, your 4 on the floor types, your 128 house bass. You'll actually hear this sort of technique used on a lot of records to give it a big wide sound. So let's have a little listen to what we're going to be working with. It's one of my tunes, and what we're going to do first is just mute this little one here called wide. And we're going to have a listen at how the bass sounds before I've introduced the wide, if you will. Okay, so we get it. It's drum and bass, heavy reese, bass right down the center, nice and aggressive, and that sounds okay. And if we test it on mono, yeah, not as exciting, but we don't really lose anything. The cymbals, they get thrown up into the middle. That's about it, really. Everything else stays the same. We're working in stereo. We can be much more exciting with it. If we try it, and I'll unmute this wide when it loops around past the first couple of bars, and you'll be able to hear the massive difference, whether you're on speakers or headphones. Now I've put the wide in, we're going to dip back into the mono. Cool, so you can see when we're swapping back and forth to mono there, we're not actually losing anything. The sides disappear again. Okay, no big deal. We've still got the middle. Now that's the key thing as to why I've done this on 2 channels. When you're going to look at your bass, if you start putting stereo winders and things on it, when you go back to mono, it's probably just going to straight cancel it out. What we're looking at here is a nice, fairly simple way to avoid it. Now, I've used a couple of plugins that are third-party purchases, but there are ways to do it within your respective DAW. You'll have plugins that can do similar things. Okay, so let's have a little look at what we've got going on the wide channel. First things first, of this guy. Okay, so this is Waves Real ADT. Now that is artificial double track. The idea comes from back in Abbey Road Studios. They didn't want to double track everything when they were recording the Beatles because it was a lot of work. They came up with the artificial double tracker, and what that effectively does is have a copy of the sound and puts it slightly out of phase, and then it wobbles that phase in and out just ever so slightly. I've got it on quite extreme settings here. Left channel panned hard left, moving 1.16 in and out, panned hard right, going the full 10 milliseconds out and wobbling back and forth with an LFO range of 2, it's wobbling with an LFO range of 3. So that puts the different phases on the left and right completely out. Now bear in mind, I've got the bass as a stereo channel, but it is a mono sound. It cuts right down the middle. This makes it stereo. Now you could do this with something like the S1 or a plugin that I've shown before, which was Panagement. We can remember where that was. There it is. This will give you some similar options, but not necessarily the same thing. If you use the distance and width up here, you can spread it a bit. You just can't be as detailed as the artificial double tracker, but that's a free option. You can go and grab that from the AU Burn website. Great little plugin for a freebie. Equally, you could do something similar with the Waves S1 if you've got access to that, or there are stereo effects available in most stores. The other one I keep seeing at the moment, Stereo Savage from Plugin Boutique. That's another great option that will let you do a similar sort of thing and get that spread. Now the key thing to do after this, I've done it here with an EQ, but the EQ curve is not the important thing here. The important thing is what's going on down here. So I've put the EQ into mid-side mode. Now the mid actual EQ, which is the orange band following along here, That's doing nothing whatsoever, and that's because I've taken the mid channel out. If we have a listen to wide on its own, now you're going to hear like there's something in the middle, but it's actually left and right, and you're getting a phantom center. Now, I've taken all the middle out. We can play it, and I'll ride this back up and you'll hear how it sounds with it in. Well, oh my god, it sounds like the combination of bass and wide, because that is what it is. Except we keep the two separate, so that when we start applying stereo effects and crazy things to it, it doesn't affect our center, our bass down the middle that we don't want to lose when we go back to mono. If we play it on the club system, it needs to be there, present in the middle, and not get affected. So we take all that out and we just work with the sides. Now on the sides, we're going to go back to here, and now that's the green EQ profile I've got going here. I've got a couple of bumps, but hey, that's just what sounded good and how I wanted it to sound. We have rolled off the lows, okay? We don't need all this low energy that's coming out in the left and right channels. It's just going to muddy up the mix, and again it's going to give us more of a chance of phase cancellation and cancelling out our lows and our sub. There is a sub on this running across everything else. I think what are we in? I think it's G, and it's what that'll be 49 hertz for the low frequency there, and that's going to be around this region here where we've got the nice fade off, and we would potentially start getting cancellation there if anything's slightly out of phase. So we just roll that off, so we've just got the high end, and you'll be able to hear the difference here. Yeah, so all the low disappears. Now that is the key part of this. You're keeping the sides and the mid separate so that they're not affecting each other, but you can work with them independently, which also is what allows me to EQ this. And what we've also done to add some space is I put the RC24 on here. Now honestly, I use the Relab Lexicon most of the time, but I have these, so at the time I grabbed it, set it sounded good, and that's what we've stuck with. All this is doing, adding some ambience. We'll try it in and out so you can see what I'm... So that's very raw and rough, and yeah, it's still on the edges, but this gives us more of that spread and that natural sound, and it gives the feeling that this bass is being pumped out of a huge sound system into a big room, and it's giving that spread. And last thing, compressor set to FET. If you've seen some of my other tutorials, you'll know why I do studio FET when I'm going to sidechain something, and I just wanted this to pump to bring everything down so the bass still works together and it all sounds like it is one sound. And that is slamming really hard there. You get the feeling that the drums are still there even though they're off. Sick. So that, guys, is how to make your super aggressive mono bass super wide and huge. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.